afraid at these stories of these giants that lived there, giant people, fierce warriors, and they did not believe that they could defeat such people. So God didn't let the people see that promised land until those generations were gone that had fear, had trepidation, that was afraid of crossing over the river into the promised land. Now, God has never forgotten his covenant relationship with his people, even though Jewish and Christian alike, throughout time itself, has questioned that covenant relationship. When the mighty Muslim armies of Persia were threatening the great nations of Europe to convert to Islam or die, every man, woman, and children, and they fought them back till they stopped coming. And then when nations started spreading out more so throughout the world in the business of commerce and nations interacting in other nations, there was always conflict over religion and over interpretation of religion throughout time. We see in this past week not only the chaos that continues over Palestine, but we forget that Hamas is a pretty evil militant wing of Palestine. And yet we try to balance that with the fact of Israeli forces firing on those artillery placements, which are placed near civilian structures and mosques, and then people die. That's what happens in war. All the people here sitting in the pew today knows loved ones from your own families and cousins throughout time that has been individuals that had answered the nation's call, the United States nation's call, to fight in World War II, World War I, Spanish-American War, current Persian wars, Persian Gulf, all parts of the world, Africa, Southwest Asia, Vietnam. There will always be wars and rumors of wars. There will always be pharaohs of different names, cultures, and religions that will try to oppress their people, and there will always be certain nations like the United States and others that will speak out through diplomatic means first. And sometimes strongly, to say, stop being pharaohs to your own people, seeking peace or a peaceful resolve to a situation. We've seen the shoot down of the Malaysian Airlines jet in the Ukraine, used for political purposes. We've seen to continue in this mad rush of media and technology, and seem to forget that a lot of people do not care what happens in Hollywood, Bollywood, or London, England, or Paris, France, or Tokyo, Japan, or Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia. Doesn't care what happens, but they care what happens to their neighbors and to their communities. We also think closer to home than far away. We seem to forget that old story of that God so loved this old world, He gave His Son to be a light to the world, that all may see their way back to God once again, for sin has darkened the understanding and clouded the mind of men and women and alienated them from the life of God, the relationship that God wants with each of us, men, women, and children. And that sin, that desire for land, or desire for wealth, or desire for whatever our neighbor may have, has driven people so to do evil things, to kill people, to murder people, to rob people. There is great fear across our nation and in our communities across our nation. That sin has alienated people from the life of God, from the closeness and the relationship, and filled people's hearts with the deceitfulness of sin. But now is the acceptable time for the day of salvation, today, and not wait till tomorrow. The old story of Jesus and His glory, the day of God's grace and favorable visitation, when He visits men, women, and children and illuminates the hearts and minds and individual spirits with a light from heaven, a divine spark, a condition where they are, in the place, in the community of where they are,